What's going on, people? Welcome to the opposition preview, and I'm joined by Dave from the Talking Wolves channel. Last two games. Next up, Wolves. Can we keep our unbeaten run going? As always, if you do enjoy it, like, subscribe, your thoughts in the comment section down below, and make sure to check out Talking Wolves, where I'm on it to give my perspective as a Palace fan. Before we get started, Dave, welcome on, bro. As I always say, I think you genuinely had the most appearances on this channel. You've been consistent. How you been?
Yeah, all good, thanks, man. All good. Yeah, I mean, we had a conversation earlier on. I'm sort of waiting for the season to end now because our season sort of fell off slowly. So I'm sort of looking forward to the summer now. But yeah, hopefully a productive preseason and we can kick on again next year.
Yeah, well, Palace fans, it's a bit weird. Of course, me personally, I'm kind of looking forward to the end of the season, but I also am looking forward to the last two games, especially with our unbeaten run being at 5. I know we're not going invincible and saying I'm on 40 games unbeaten, but it's something. It's something to look forward to. But you mentioned that you're looking forward to the end of the season. You haven't got much to play for. How do you sum up your season then, as we approach the end?
It's been okay. Well, more than okay, really. I think if you consider the circumstances at the start of the year when Lopetegui ultimately walked out on us right before the season. Gary Neville comes in with no pre-season, just a couple of days of training before the Manchester United game.
Did you say Gary Neville? Or did I hear
Gary
that wrong?
O'Neill. I don't know.
No,
I
you said Gary O'Neill. Maybe I heard that wrong. I was like,
Gary O'Neill. No, Gary O'Neill.
Like, that's
Gary O'Neill
comes in. You don't want that. You don't want that. You don't want that.
Gary O'Neill comes in and he's done a very good job. There was a couple of teething problems, I think, early doors. I was a little bit disappointed by a couple of things that he'd done, but we played City at home. He changed the system. We were fantastic, and he stuck to that system ever since. And, for most part, our form at Molineux has been fantastic. We were unbeaten there for a long, long time. And then it got to this sort of FA Cup game against Coventry, which, was a fantastic game. We went 2-1 up and then conceded 2 late goals in stoppage time, and ultimately we knocked out of the FA Cup. But I think he was disappointed that he didn't get backed in January. I think one or two more players, our team would have been a lot stronger for that FA Cup tie and the Premier League fixtures around then. But, I can't be too disappointed. I think at the start of the season, every Premier League prediction video had Wolves down there and possibly even getting relegated. So the fact that we are where we are, we were in the conversation for Europe for a short while. I'm pretty satisfied with how it's gone, to be honest.
Would you say that you're on the beach then after the FA Cup game?
It feels like it, to be fair. Yeah, I think after that FA Cup game, weirdly, we could have still made a push for European football. I think we played West Ham a few weeks after that, and if we'd beaten West Ham, we would have gone ahead of them, and we would have been sort of 7th or 8th in the league. But yeah, we had a tough. I think we had Arsenal and Villa straight after that game, the Coventry game. Then we played West Ham. So yeah, I think. Yeah, we've not been great, to be honest. And I feel like the players are on the beach, to be honest. And I think a lot of the fans do. We sort of gave up after that FA Cup game. So if it was me, if I was a betting man, I would probably put Palace down as favourites for this game, purely down to form as well. You guys have been on fire and we've had one win in our last sort of 7 or 8 games. So
Why is that then? Why is that?
It probably just, I think after that FA Cup game, it was like a real dampener because I think we looked at that match against Coventry. I think any Premier League team would back themselves against the Championship side. And in hindsight, we probably should have won. We had an 18, 19-year-old lad up front that had started 1 or 2 Premier League games and didn't really have the quality. So I think it was a real kick in the teeth when we ended up losing that game. And it was a real kick for morale as well. So I don't think we've just ever recovered. And then we had a tough run of fixtures, like I mentioned, playing Arsenal, Villa. We had a bad run of injuries. Cunha's been out. Hwang's been out. Neto out. And we just haven't got the depth. And no Palace have had similar issues. But, going forward, we had Pablo Sarabia play alongside like an 18, 19-year-old as our front two. You're not going to win games with that front two. So, thankfully, last couple of weeks or so, we've seen a better attacking lineup. And, you can see that with the quality of football. Obviously, we got smashed against City last week. But the games against Forest and Luton, we did look a lot better going forward, albeit they are teams sort of down at the bottom end of the table.
You've had some big results though this season under Gary O'Neill, and it seems like from the outside looking in, anyways, it seems like you've been playing some exciting football, and there's been games to look forward to. I think it's probably the case of coming towards the end of the season out of the FA Cup naturally. So even under Vieira, I remember when we got knocked out the FA Cup. I think it was the semi-final game against Chelsea. after that, it kind of went downhill because it's like,
Yeah.
what do we have to play for? But your overall thoughts on Gary O'Neill then, now that you've had him for a whole season, do you think he's the man to lead you forward?
Yeah, I think so. I think it'll be interesting. Obviously, we had a few links with well, he had a few links with a few different, other clubs throughout last few weeks or so. But he started over the last he quieted down over the last week or so, but last month or so there were sort of little jabs almost at the board, quite subtle, but sort of saying, look, we need reinforcements. So I just hope that's a bit of a wake up call for the board and thinking, look, you have got a young coach here who clearly knows what he's doing, and a lot of the players love him. In terms of the squad morale and stuff, it's been fantastic this year. So I'm hoping, that a couple of signings get Gary the squad that he wants and sort of needs for next season, and we'll see. It'll be interesting. Second season is always the big one, really. Do you get second season syndrome, or can you push on from what you've achieved already? And I think we're bound to lose one key player, but as we had a conversation earlier on our channel, if we can reinvest that properly in a couple of different players, bolster the team. We haven't really got a proper number 9 in this squad at the moment. Maybe bring in a couple of more attacking players. I think we'll be in a better position to compete a lot more next season.
Do you think he's ready for the step up then? Let's say he was to leave.
I don't know. I think I have no doubt in his managerial and his coaching abilities, but I think it would be a massive risk for someone like the teams that were linked, Liverpool, United, for argument's sake. That would be a huge, huge jump. And even I think for him, unfortunately, I think something like, I'm not saying that, he will get it, but the England job's probably come a tad too soon for him as well. I think for argument's sake, if the World Cup was next summer and he had another really productive year at Wolves next year, I think he would be in the conversation a lot more. But yeah, I think he's a good coach. He's shown a really good sign so far this season. As a young coach, he sort of, you can see how he's matured as well throughout the season, changed things, learned to do the right things. Even with things such as speaking to the media and stuff. And I think he's a good coach. I'm confident that we can have another good year next season.
Yeah. Well, all the signs have been there. He just has to be backed. He just feels like he hasn't got enough players, which we could make the same case for Glasner in terms of depth. I think depth is the biggest issue for us, and it's going to be a funny summer because we've been linked with a lot of players away from the club. So let's see how many we can keep. Let's see who we do sell. Let's see who we bring in. It's not going to be a quiet summer, I don't think. This based on rumors, anyways, for Palace. But what have you made of Palace under Glasner? Of course, it feels like there's 2 chapters of Palace this season: the Roy Hodgson chapter and the Glasner chapter. Even though the Glasner chapter is not long enough, we're in it right now. What have you made of it all?
The change under the new management has been fantastic, especially in recent weeks. Obviously, you mentioned, the unbeaten run that you boys are on, but I think even just it's really interesting with managers. Like, I always look at Unai Emery and Ollie Watkins as one. Like, Watkins was always a decent footballer, but in terms, he never ever consistently scored goals. And under Emery, he's been fantastic. And I'll be intrigued now with someone like Mateta, not necessarily him, but if he can get forward scoring goals. So like Mateta's, I was, even at Molineux, I look at him and I've watched him a few times, and I think he's a threat. But for whatever reason, he's just not had the output. But the amount of goals that he's been scoring recently has been fantastic. And you never know, another productive preseason, he could kick on and be one of those strikers, one of those players that everyone seems to have in their FPL and so on from next season. But I think the quality of football, some of the results I mentioned to you earlier, I think the Manchester United result, I looked at that United team and I thought Palace are my favourites for this, but I would have never have expected you to smash 4 past them. So, it's great for teams, especially at the moment, teams in the bottom half, to just be that ruthless. He's really good. A lot of managers, and I'm sure Roy Hodgson might have been one of those, that you get your first or you get your second goal and he would sort of get back to gear 1, slow it down. And whereas, for a manager to go, hey, let's stamp on their throat. Let's carry on going for it. It's fantastic, really. So, I'm intrigued, a little bit worried as such, because I think that's almost another team that Wolves are going to have to seriously worry about next season in terms of competing for the top half. And, if he can carry on with this momentum, who knows? We've seen teams like Brighton, West Ham, whoever else, competing for those late European spots. There's no doubt that Palace, with the right recruitment in the summer, could be another one of those teams next year.
Yeah, and there's only so many spaces available, and you expect the
Exactly.
likes of, I don't know, maybe Chelsea to be a bit more consistent,
Mhm.
United to be
For
better.
sure.
Like it's gonna be very interesting next season, especially with the transfers as well. Let's see who keeps who and who brings in what players, because now with the PSR rules, especially with the
Mhm.
points deduction, I think teams are going to be a bit worried.
Yeah.
In terms of the spending. So we probably have to sell, but that makes it even more interesting. Who's going to be able to sell and replace these players with similar quality? Like that's not going to
Yeah.
be an easy task. But in talking about players, who are we looking out for then in this game? Who's been on form recently, despite your overall team performance not being maybe on point?
Um,
If
I think
anyone,
sort of. Yeah. I mean, Cunha. Cunha's been back, and he wasn't great against City, but I thought against Luton and what we saw of him at Forest, he was very decent. Hwang as well. Hwang's a weird one because in terms of performances, he's not actually been brilliant, but he just seems to be one of those players that's been at the right place at the right time. There's a loose ball in the area and he'll put it in the back of the net.
mm,
So I think I have no doubt as long as they're fit, those two are going to start for us on Saturday. Aït-Nouri's been a big one. Again, he had a knock a couple of weeks ago, but came back in against City. But going forward, such a fantastic footballer. But defensively as well, he'll keep key players quiet if you've got a right winger who's, I've never seen Salah have a good game against Ryan Aït-Nouri, and that's not being
so it's
sarcastic
going to be at
at
least
all.
he's going to have a quiet game
Yeah,
potentially.
possibly, mate. I think no. If Ain't Nori, because he didn't really start at left wing back last week, but if Ain't Nori starts at left wing back, that'll be a great battle to watch. Elise versus Ain't Nori, like he's really really good. I don't know what it is. Ain't Nori's got a lot of flair and stuff himself, so I don't know if he almost knows what the winger's going to do because he's got a similar sort of capability on the ball. And then João Gomez, I think Lemina's been great as well, but João Gomez is a young lad. It's been really key for Wolves. With Neves and Matinho, we always had a great midfield. But as soon as you come up against a team with a bit of physicality, Wolves would just melt. Everything had to go through Neves and Matinho. And when they didn't they couldn't cope with that physicality, Wolves struggled. Whereas now it's almost the polar opposite. João Gomez and Lamina can both play, but they're physical. They're good players. They like to get stuck in. I think that's helped Wolves a lot over the last sort of 12 months or so. So João Gomez is one. And sort of like we were saying earlier, I think it's going to probably be out of Neto, who is returning from injury, so might take part on Saturday. Neto, Aït-Nouri, or João Gomez. That's one of those will leave Wolves this summer, and it's just up to the sporting director and the club to see who they can get the most money for, really.
It seems like we're in the same boat in a way. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, we're not that far off in terms of league positions as well on points. I think we can go above you if you beat you, right?
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
And in terms of like big sale, we're expecting a big sale as well. It's weird because I feel like we've had this conversation last season as well in terms of like not being far off each other. It seems like we're always like close to each other, even though we had a poor season for the majority of the season. We fight relegation, we still managed to like end up in a similar boat. And yeah, it's just about breaking where we are to try and push for them European spots, which you did have a chance this season. So it's not like you was focused on relegation. You did have that chance. We didn't. But it's like next season is who's going to get it? Like we don't know. We don't know. You never know. With even Newcastle, they haven't been as great as last season, and they slowly picked up form. But yeah, that's why the Premier League I think is the best league in the world, because you just don't know what could easily happen. So strengths and weaknesses. What are we looking out for in this Wolves side? What are you good at? And what can we target?
I think the strengths of Wolves really the counter attack. We could turn defense into attack very very quickly at times. That we've seen that
You
with the
like keeping
qualities.
possession? Sorry to cut you off, because that's interesting, because we like counter attacks as well. So I'm thinking, who's going to keep the ball at home? Do you reckon you will try to keep a bit more of the ball, because of course you're playing in front of the crowd?
I think a lot of it will depend on the defensive line as well in terms of how high it is and so on. Like Wolves, although there have been games where we've kept a lot of the ball, I never think we play that well when we have more of the ball. I think we like it better when teams have the ball and we can sort of, sit deep, absorb that pressure and get it on the counter. Although we were absolutely awful against City, but by trying to do that, but they're a different animal in themselves. So we have done quite well at Molineux this season, regardless, even with the ball. But it's just getting the right players on the ball at times. I think Neto's obviously a big loss. If I would hope the front three will be Sarabia, who is technically good, Cunha, Hwang as well, to try and make things happen. In terms of weaknesses, I think at times defensive shape can be one. The back three dwell on the ball a little bit at times, and almost, I know our strength's counter-attack. I think our weakness can be getting counter-attacked at times as well. I think with the pace, the quality, the skill that Palace have, I think the physicality of Mateta as well is something that the centre-halves have struggled with at times. When we had Craig Dawson's injured at the moment, when we had Craig Dawson in the back three, used to say, Craig, you pin yourself on the big striker and we'll worry about everything else. Like Haaland, I've never seen a quieter performance from Haaland apart from when he came to Molineux because Dawson just pinned himself on him. But we're missing him a lot at the moment. So it'll be up to Kilman. Kilman normally isn't fantastic against these bigger strikers. So that'll be an interesting one. But yeah, I think it's just to remain tight, really. We're not brilliant. If we play a high line, if we have a lot of the ball, I am worried that the pace of Eze and Elise and co, could cause us a couple of problems.
Yeah. You know what's funny? This is a bit off topic, but I didn't realize how dark it's been getting in my room.
Yeah.
I mean, when we started this, when we started the stream, it wasn't as dark, and now all of a sudden, like I'm looking at myself, I'm literally right. Which you can tell I'm not in the UK, but it might be a good sign to actually wrap up as well. But yeah, in terms of like the strengths and weaknesses, I think that's very interesting, the counter attack, because we love the counter attack and we've been very good at it. So yeah, let's see if Elise, Eze, and Mateta can take advantage of that. But talk to me about score predictions. I said it on your channel. I said 1-1. But I'll be not in a rude way, but I'll be disappointed if we lose based on the form that you've said and basically being on the beach. And I want us to be unbeaten and keep that streak going. But how are you feeling?
I'm in a sort of similar boat to you. I'm not holding my breath. If I had to put money on it, I probably would put it towards Palace or draw, to be completely honest. I think 1-1 is a very good, good bet. If there is going to be a team, I don't think anyone's going to a team to win. I don't think anyone's going to run away with it. I think it'll just be a goal either way. So I'd love to say 2-1 Wolves, thinking, last home game of the season, give the fans a decent farewell until next season. But I am leaning a bit more towards Palace. So I'll sit on the fence. I'll go with a 1-1 as well, mate.
Yeah. Oh, everyone just sit on the fence. Just typical end of the season game. Let's see. Hopefully there's a bit more goals than we expect anyways, because season's ending and we haven't got much to play for. But let us know what you think in the comment section down below with your score predictions. Make sure to check out Dave's Talking Wolves channel and also check out his socials as well, which I believe is your name, right?
Yeah. Just at Dave as a party. Yeah. Cheers, man.
Yeah, make sure to check that out as well. That's it from us too. And until next time, up the